Thank you for joining me on the part two of the series that I'm doing with Envisage with Pastor Bernhard. This is part two of the D word, and part of my videos, which you'll find on Facebook Live and YouTube, my YouTube channel, is I want to be real. I want transparent with you about some of the journeys that I've been through, and I hope it helps you. And if I can help one person with what I have been through, I've achieved my objectives with these videos. And so thank you for joining me. If you didn't watch part one, you will find it on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page. And so just to take 30 seconds to recap, in the early 90s, I encountered severe depression. And I want to share this. This is my story. And my story might be very different to your story. And so I want to share my story and my journey. And so just to touch base from the video last week, I went into major depression in the early 90s. And it's almost like I created a bubble of thoughts that really attacked who I was as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a colleague at work. And your thoughts are so powerful, and it really gained control of my mind. And that sent me into a spiral of depression. And the spiral that I experience is always downhill. And it was downhill. My behavior started to change. I became very angry. I started to do things that's not part of my character. And being a leader in one of the churches in Cape Town, all of a sudden I found myself slipping away. I didn't even want to read my Bible. I didn't even want to pray. I didn't even want to mix with people. I began to isolate myself, and we were blessed with three beautiful little children, and my thoughts began to beat me up in that I wasn't successful in any area of my life. I felt I wasn't successful, be it in my career, be it in my serving in the local church, and the calling that I sensed that God had placed upon my life, and wasn't achieving in the corporate world. And so with these thoughts playing around in my head, the thoughts gained control of my behavior. And so I just withdrew. I withdrew completely from people. I didn't want to go out, and my wonderful wife, she put up with me, and I'm sure she would love to tell you her story of the journey that she had to take with this stubborn guy, and my depression. And it just got progressively worse. And if I didn't have to go to work, I wouldn't have gone to work. If I really fought tooth and nail to even attend church, where my wife wanted us to go to church as a family, and I just didn't even want to do that. I didn't even want to connect with friends. I didn't want my friends to see what was happening to me, that I had lost control of what was happening inside of me. Depression is, in my situation, was an inside job. It was my own internal dialogue that really gained control and was beginning to destroy me. It was beginning to destroy the vision. It was beginning to destroy the direction. It was beginning to destroy the call that I sensed that was upon my life. It almost started to eat away at it, and that's what the spirit of depression does. It eats away at your hope. It eats away at your future, and you become paralyzed to this darkness that slowly descends upon you and makes you feel, miserable. I could sleep for many hours. I withdrew. as I said last week, I consumed more alcohol because it was a way of numbing what was going in my headspace. But as you know, alcohol can never solve depression. It numbs it for a moment, but when you're back on your feet again, you still have to deal with the same internal dialogue that was happening. Real tough season, and I want to honor my wife Colleen for standing with me during that season. And I know that there was an army of people that were praying for me, because there was no social media, so it wasn't like put it out on social media, my husband's depressed, or what do I do, and my hands are up. And so it was a case of, in her contacts with people, I know that there were an army of people that were praying for me. And I had reached a point where, as I said last week, suicide was really part of, this will possibly end it for me, that I don't have to deal with these thoughts and these challenges that were coming my way. And I remember having a conversation with Colleen one day, and she suggested I go and see a medical doctor. And if you know me, in those days, I was pretty much a private guy. I loved helping people. I loved listening to other people's problems and challenges. I loved serving people. I would go the extra 300 miles for people. But when it came to myself, it was, I didn't want to show any weakness that I might have. And so I kept my internal struggles to myself, and not giving it a platform or making people think differently of me because of what I was going through. And so people's opinions of me were very important then, and what they thought of me. And I was always the jovial, great guy. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I loved life. I enjoyed life until this season. And I didn't want to come across that I had any weaknesses during this challenging season. And so I recall having a conversation with Colleen, and she says, "Why don't you ask for help?" And I said, "No, I don't want help. I'll sort this out." And in my very abrupt way, in my conversation, purely because of where my headspace was at that particular time, I didn't want help, because I didn't want people to know what I'm struggling with in my thoughts and in this dark pit that I find myself. And eventually I agreed to her. And I think the eventually was tied up with breakthrough in the prayers that were coming my way. It was almost, I built this wall around myself to protect myself from anybody else. And it was just me, myself, and I. It was like the Holy Trinity of depression. And I didn't want outside help, because I didn't want people to know that I'm struggling in a particular way. And when I look back now, I can see that the prayers were slowly making the bubble that I had created be eaten away. And I eventually said to her, "I will go and see a doctor." Went to a doctor. I mean, it took massive effort, let me tell you something. Massive effort. Went to the doctor. I shared my internal struggles and thoughts, how I was feeling, a lot of the external things that I could see was happening, sleeping a lot, not wanting to meet with people, connect with people. And he prescribed some medication for me, and to be honest with you, I cannot recall what it was. And so I got the medication, went home, and I can't recall how many days. I don't think it was longer than 4 days that I took this medication. And it was almost combined with the prayer and the realization that I needed medication to help me. It was like I was putting my hands up, crying out for help, and my breakthrough came. I can't describe it to you. It was almost like I had been asleep for 3 months. It was like I was in my own world for 3 months. And almost, it was like a suddenly moment that somebody burst the bubble, I believe, through prayer. And the realization that, wow, Bernhard, you taking medication to cope. Now, let me tell you something. This is my story. Now, you might have another story which is very different to mine. So when I say, please don't follow what I have done, because this is my story and what happened to me. Please, I don't want you to do what I'm going to say next, because you need to go to your doctor. But this was my story. And what had happened was, it was almost like I woke up. I woke up and I thought, Bernhard, what's been happening to you? For 3-4 months, you've been living in this bubble and you've been living in this dark pit. Now you've put up your hands in this dark pit. And when you can put up your hands in this dark pit, God can come and pull you by your hands. But I had to come to the realization I need spiritual help at a crisis moment like this. And when I put up my hands to say, Lord, I need your help. Get me out of this pit. And an incredible miracle happened. I sensed the Lord saying to me, now this is my story, I need to say it again, is that I felt the Lord saying, take that medication, you do not need it, and you throw it away. And friends, I can't tell you, a miracle happened in a moment. My depression left me in a moment. And I sometimes can't believe the miraculous power and the hand of God who set me free in a moment. And I then started with my journey of breakthrough and of deliverance. I remember speaking to some very special people that helped me, that prayed for me, that stood with me. It was almost like I opened myself to allow people into my bubble to journey with me. People who loved me, people who cared for me, people who loved my family, and were able to, because the bubble was burst, that we were able to join or to journey forward. And so for me, it was an absolute miracle. And it was an incredible time of being set free. Let me just say one more thing before I end. You know, I remember saying to God at that moment of breakthrough, I said to God the following. I said, I am not going to blame anybody in my life for my happiness and for my joy, because God gives us joy, God gives us happiness, and I choose to enjoy every day that God has blessed me with. I can't blame my wife, I can't blame my children, I can't blame my friends, I can't blame my church. I cannot blame people for my happiness, because I choose to enjoy every day that God has blessed me and that God has entrusted to me. I made a decision that day, early 90s, that I'm going to enjoy life to the fullest. And that's what has happened. And so I just thank you for the incredible, just amazing breakthrough. And since I make that confession, you know, let me tell you a secret. I make that confession every day. When I wake up, I thank God every day. Lord, I pray that I use my time wisely. I pray, Lord God, that you would bless me today. And I pray that I will have an incredible day, because I choose that. I confess it with the power of my words. And so I was set free. Isn't it amazing? Come on. Hope that encourages you. So that's the end of part 2. Next week, I want to share, when I look back on what has happened, I want to share some insights that I want to encourage you with, warning signs, warning signs for yourself, or how you can help other people along their journey, those who are struggling with depression. So this is going to be continued. Part 3, happening soon. Please watch out for the video. God bless you. Please share this with your friends. I know they're going to be encouraged.